I think it's pretty safe to say everyone wants some meal ideas that they don't have to think too hard to make. Ones where you can put them together and they come out good every time without having to fuss too much on exact measurements. Most of this is not measured, and you'll see how you can toss together some things to create a delicious meal. It is multi-stepped, but comes together in about 45 minutes. It makes enough for about 4, give or take some leftovers, and it has several components that you could use for meal prep too. You'll roast a sheet pan of veggies and a sheet pan of tofu in the oven, and prepare some quick stewed black beans on the stovetop. I also threw together a quick slaw and a cashew cream dressing, and while I think those are really great and add something to the meal, this would also be good even without them. First things first, you'll preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and then to start, you'll add an assortment of cubed veggies to a parchment-lined sheet pan. I used 3 smaller sweet potatoes and 1 large bell pepper here. You can use whatever you prefer. You can cut down on the potatoes and add in an onion, or whatever else you have on hand will probably work just fine. Now we are going to add our spices. These aren't measured, but you'll see that a pretty good coating of each is added. Don't dump out your whole spice container, but use enough to create a thin layer over all of the veggies. You want them pretty generously coated. We're using a light dusting of oregano, and then you'll be quite generous with the garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, and chili powder, and then a lighter coating of cumin. A couple small pinches of salt, and give everything a good toss to get all the pieces coated nicely. Spread them out in an even layer so that each piece is touching the pan for maximum browning. You'll see here that everything is pretty nicely coated in the spices, all that good flavor. You want to really see the spices coating the veg. Now toss that in the oven for about 30 to 35 minutes while we start on the tofu. For the tofu, again on a parchment-lined pan, you'll add 1 block of pressed firm or extra firm tofu that has been cubed. You'll separate and spread these out and then add a drizzle of oil. Now you'll coat these in spices as well. To these, we are adding a nice healthy dusting of garlic powder, minced dried onion or onion powder, whatever you have, paprika, chili powder, a bit of cayenne for a kick of heat, or leave it out if you don't want the spice, and then a pinch of salt, a drizzle of red wine vinegar over everything, and then a pretty good coating of nutritional yeast. Give everything a toss to coat. You can scoop up a handful and gently rub the pieces together to make sure everything is well mixed, and then make sure everything is spread out in a single layer. You can again see here, just like the veggies, that the tofu pieces are well coated and are thoroughly covered in spices. Now toss this pan in the oven with the veggies and let that cook for about 25 to 30 minutes while we make the beans. For the beans, this is going to be a really simple stewed bean. Canned beans and tomatoes along with dried spices make it ridiculously quick to pop on the stove. I bloom the spices in a splash of oil for about 30 seconds to bring out some more flavor in the spices, but if you can't be bothered, it's not the end of the world and you'll still end up with a pretty flavorful bean. I often will use the cap for the spices to eyeball a measure like you see here. Most of these caps are about a heavy tablespoon's worth, so I keep that in mind and imagine that roughly a third of the cap is a teaspoon, and use that as a frame of reference when adding the spices. Add a small splash of oil to a pot, and then you'll add your spices to this oil. For these beans, we are going to add garlic powder, onion powder, cumin, paprika, and chili powder, and then stir it over a medium heat. It will likely sizzle in the oil as it gets hot, so stir constantly so that they don't burn. I like to have the beans or tomatoes ready to add so that if I notice the spices start to burn, I can throw in the beans or tomatoes to cool things down pretty quickly. Burning the spices here is not ideal, so be prepared. For these, you'll add 2 cans of drained and rinsed black beans, along with 1 can of fire-roasted diced tomatoes, and a pinch of salt. Stir everything to combine and then add a bit of water. You'll add enough water to just cover the beans, and then bring this to a medium simmer and let it simmer away while the veggies and tofu finish cooking. For the quick slaw, I'm using a medium-large size bowl and this spoon that I'm going to use to stir the slaw as my measuring device. I'll add a spoonful of stone ground mustard, along with 2 spoonfuls of red wine vinegar, and 2 spoonfuls of oil. Now about a half teaspoon of cumin, and a half teaspoon of garlic powder. Again, these are just eyeballed, but you can measure if you'd prefer. Give that dressing a quick stir, and then add in your coleslaw. Squeezing or mashing the cabbage really helps to break down the structure of the cabbage and create a softer slaw. You can use the back of your spoon, or to make it faster, use your hand. I prefer to use a kitchen glove when I'm really mashing a salad like this, especially if I'm not the only one eating it, but a very clean hand works fine too. Give the salad some good squeezes, really mushing it together. You'll feel the pieces start to break down some, and they'll get more stringy compared to how firm they were when you started. You'll see the volume in the bowl go down a decent amount as you squeeze or mash it. Once you are satisfied with that, you can set it aside while everything else finishes cooking, and you can make the cashew cream sauce. This cashew cream makes a really great addition to this meal. You'll probably have some leftovers, and it makes a great everything sauce or dressing when you need something a little creamy. It makes a great addition to tacos or wraps, and any leftovers can be stored in the fridge. To make it, you'll add 3/4 cup of cashews to a blender, along with 3/4 cup of water, a 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast, 1 tablespoon of red wine vinegar, a half teaspoon of garlic powder, and a pinch of salt. Blend this up until completely smooth, and you'll be left with this delicious sauce. If you want it a bit thicker, you can add some more cashews. If it's a bit too thick for your liking, and you want it a bit thinner, you can blend in a bit more water. With some luck, but mostly good timing, everything will be about done cooking now, and you can assemble everything together on plates or in large bowls. A base of the stewed beans goes down first, then a few scoops of the veggie mixture, a few scoops of tofu cubes, a side of the coleslaw, and a healthy drizzle of the cashew cream. The cashew cream blends with some of the beans to make this delicious creamy sauce on the bottom. There's a nice blend of heat from the cayenne on the tofu, but the creaminess of the cashew dressing and the coolness of the coleslaw help to cut the heat, and you have just this great blend of flavors here. As you can see, most of this was eyeballed as we made it, and in terms of seasoning, you can go with the motto that you want to really see the spices build up on whatever you're putting it on. Those veggies and tofu pieces were coated, and though the measurements weren't precise, you can be sure that if you have enough flavor on there, you'll get something tasty each time without a lot of effort or concern. As always, I really hope you enjoy this, and this process gives you some ideas to add to your typical dinner rotations. And figuratively, metaphorically, abstractly, let's eat together.